which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Clerk, could you call the roll?
Yes. A quorum is present for Inglewood City Council, successor agency, and housing authority.
Any persons present wishing to address City Council, successor agency, or the Housing Authority on any item on today's agenda may do so at this time. We will close public comment. Item 1, consent calendar, items 2 through 4.
So moved.
Madam Clerk.
Mayor, excuse me, Mayor,
Yes, ma'am.
can we go back to 1 CS?
You know what, we sure
A1.
can't. You know what, you're absolutely right. Item 1, CSA 1 and H1.
Move allow payments.
Second.
Council and agency members, Dodson.
Aye.
Padilla.
Aye.
Morales.
Aye.
Franklin.
Aye.
Mayor Chairman Buds.
Aye. Consent calendar, items 2 through 4.
You need another motion? Miss? So moved.
Second.
Oh. Madam Clerk?
Council members, Dodson.
Aye.
Padilla.
Aye.
Morales.
Aye.
Franklin.
Aye.
Mayor Buds.
Aye. DR1.
Staff report presenting a first quarter budget review report for the fiscal year 2017-18.
Is there a report?
Please, right now, if you want it, without slides, we can proceed.
Oh, how long will it be before we have slides? Oh, hold on a second, wait a minute, let me get this. No, I got him, Mr. Burt, I got him. So, wait a minute, do we think we have a bad laptop? Because 5 minutes is a long time for it to be spinning. So do you think that maybe they could bring us up another laptop? Okay, so let's do that, Mr. Esparza, you start without it. Why don't you call down to IT and get one up here like right now? All right.
We move to the next item, Mayor?
Oh, we could do that. Well, Mr. Esparza, why don't you stand by and we'll just move to the next item and come back. Good idea. Why, there's 5 of us. There's 5 of us.
I gave input.
A1.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to give a report today.
Oh, please. Please.
I'm only kidding. Got us excited.
That's funny.
CC1, Madam City Clerk.
No report, thank you, Mayor.
Well, I can always depend on the city treasurer. CT1.
Just briefly, I did purchase one bond for the city, and it had a coupon of 2.55, and it matures in 5 years. That concludes my comments in my report.
Thank you. Okay, well, we'll adjourn the successor agency, adjourn the housing authority. Okay. Oh, my goodness. Now, who would ever think that we couldn't fill 5 minutes up for a city council meeting? Okay, well, why don't you, the public has a copy of the PowerPoint, so we're going to have Mr. Esparza do it from the old-fashioned way, from paper.
Stay there.
Good afternoon, council, staff, and the public. My name is David Esparza. I'm the Chief Financial Officer for the City of Inglewood. And today is our first quarter report on the budget's progress for fiscal year 2017 and 18. Before we actually ran through the slide presentation earlier this morning to make sure that everything was working well, and it was at the time. We have the first slide that we have is a snapshot of the economic indicators that we typically show up on the screen. We see that there's an increase in property taxes of 6.1%, and this is over the same period of last year.
And just to make that clear, when you say an increase in property taxes, you don't mean an increase in the rate assessed. You mean because values are up, we're receiving greater
Revenues.
receipts. Say
Yes.
that again. It's not because property taxes have gone up. All right, all right.
Property taxes have not gone.
All right, thank you, sir.
They've gone up by the state allowable 2% under Proposition 13.
There you go.
Okay, sales taxes have remained steady over the same period last year. Building permit fees have increased 15% over the same period of last year. Utility user taxes increased over the same period for last year. The hotel tax, or the transit occupancy tax, has increased 19% over the same period from the prior year. Hollywood Park, the increase over the, fees for building permits have gone up as well. Unemployment is down, and city expenses are under budget through the first quarter of this fiscal year. The next slide would be where we started the general fund budget for this year. It shows that we had expected revenues for this year of $110,216,860. Expected expenditures of $127,943,354, leaving a shortfall of $17,726,494. This, in the budget presentation, it was we used $11.5 million in general fund reserves to close the gap. Anticipated healthcare savings of $2.5 million and future vacancy savings of $2.5 million to close the $17 million gap. The next slide would be showing you the general fund revenue performance by the major categories. And it shows that at this particular point, we have collected $22,605,228, or 20% of the expected revenues for this year. The first quarter, typically, if you were just doing it proportionately, would be 25%, so we're under budget on our revenue performance at this particular point. It's still early in the fiscal year, so, because many of these revenue streams are cyclical in nature, it's still too early to really anticipate that we'll fall short. We have in the next slide the specific revenue performance for the utility users tax, which is up $1 million, or 40% over this time last year. Sales tax collections are up almost $2 million, or 82%. Property taxes, as we just talked about, collections are up $307,000, or 4.9%. And other local taxes up by $2.3 million, or 66.6%. Overall, general fund revenues are up 33.5% over the same period last year. Now, I want to make a point here in the saying that a lot of these larger accomplishments in these revenues this year are because of the timing of revenue collections. And so many of these, which would normally have been credited in the first quarter, were not received until January, which is actually the start of the second quarter. So we report on the revenues that we've actually collected, not anticipated collecting, and we make sure, then we just categorize that into the next quarter. The next slide would show that our projected revenues are underperforming at this particular point in the fiscal year. However, again, I caution you that that is because the collections are sometimes out of sync with the specific quarters.
Some room.
The next slide shows our expenditure performance for the first quarter, and it shows that our total expenditures at this particular point for the first quarter are $26,323,646, or 19.4% of our expected allotment for the fiscal year. Yeah. So the expenditures specifically for the different functions for the city, police and fire services are actually down 569,000, or -3%. Economic and community development is up by 37,286, or 3.8%. Parks and library services are down by 185,000, or 8.2%. Public works is down by 162,000, or 9.3%, and general government is up 2.1%, or 2.1 million. And so the overall general fund expenditures are up 15%. And again, this is because of the sequence of expenditures during the first quarter, not necessarily because of anything that's out of budget at this particular point.
And again, Mr. Esparza, the reality is that we neither spend money in a straight line, nor do we receive revenues on a straight line. It's based on the cyclical nature of our receipt of revenues and when we have to pay bills. Is that correct?
Correct.
So it isn't that you can take the budget, average it by 12, and say you'll spend that much each month. It just doesn't work that way.
It doesn't work that way.
All right, thank you.
The next slide will show the expenditure projections. And again, expenditures at this particular point in the fiscal year are tracking well below the expected annual performance for total expenditures. The next slide is the special funds performance. It shows both the revenues collected through the special funds and then also expenditures through the special funds. And it shows that currently we've collected $21,912,068, and actual expenditures to date or through the first quarter is $16,825,619. So revenues have been collecting at 20.2%, and we've expended them at a rate of 12.7% during the first. Any questions I can take?
Okay, in the shortfall, you have the anticipated healthcare savings, which was anticipated at the time because we were negotiating a new healthcare contract. But right now, the numbers that you have don't add up. The original healthcare savings was 3.7 million, and now in this report, it shows 2.5. That's an error which way?
We're actually expecting 3.7.
Okay, so that makes the shortfall add up. So in this document, that's an error. Is that correct? All right. Mr. Bunn, are we ready to go?
Loading up now, yes. I'm loading the application up now.
Okay. All right. Okay, so anyway, so let's stall for 60 seconds, Mr. Esparza. Okay, so therefore, the shortfall estimated 17.7 million, but the reality, the operational shortfall, when you take into account our anticipated health savings of 3.7 million and our future vacancy savings of 2.5, the reality is the operational shortfall is down to 11.5 million. Now, that number is composed of discretionary and non-discretionary purchases. Is that correct?
Correct.
And soon as Mr. Bunn is ready, I want him to put this. It's the one that says Inglewood Rises. While he's loading up, we're going to go back to item number 1 to make sure that we called all the agencies. So item 1, CSA, well, first of all, I need a motion to withdraw the vote on.
Motion to withdraw the original vote on the warrant register.
Second.
Madam Clerk?
Council members Dodson,
Aye.
Padilla,
Aye.
Morales,
Aye.
Franklin.
Aye.
Actually, let me go back. Council members, Successor Agency Housing Authority members, Dodson,
Yes.
Padilla,
Aye.
Morales,
Aye.
Franklin,
Aye.
Mayor Chairman Buds.
Aye.
And-
Item 1, CSA 1 and H1, Housing Authority and Successor Agency.
Move allow payments.
Second.
Madam Clerk?
City Council members, Successor Agency and Housing Authority members, Dodson,
Aye.
Padilla,
Aye.
Morales,
Aye.
Franklin,
Aye.
Mayor Chairman Buds.
Aye.
Thank
So-
you.
So, Mr. Esparza, I wanted to go over this shortfall because I got a call from the president of the school board who'd said that a school board member called her gloating that we had an $18 million deficit. And so I want to make sure that everyone understands what we're talking about when we talk about a budget gap as opposed to a deficit. So would you go to the next slide, please? Okay, so the total budget gap projected was $17.7 million. Is that correct? And then we knew at the time that we anticipated we would save $3.7 million by going to another health plan for our employees. Is that correct?
Correct.
And isn't it true that that health plan actually gave superior services and product to our employees? Okay. Now, we anticipate a vacancy savings of $2.5 million. Is that correct?
Yes.
And then that meant our non-operational gap was $11.5 million. Is that correct?
Yes.
Now, out of that, there are things that we decided that we would purchase in a discretionary basis that we felt were needed, that were worth taking from our general fund reserves. Is that correct?
Yes.
Did we commit to purchasing all new state-of-the-art police radios, mobile units for the police units, and consoles for the dispatchers of $2.5 million plus $500,000 in taxes for $3 million? Is that correct? Did we agree as a council that we would spend $1 million to repair the city yard roof that has been leaking for the last 4 years?
Yes.
And we decided that was important enough to spend that out of reserves. Is that correct? Did we decide to buy brand-new police vehicles to replace a fleet that has vehicles with 140,000 plus miles on them and replace the fleet in its entirety for $1.5 million? Is that correct?
Yes.
Are we anticipating to receive, when the security bank escrow closes, from the Ella Philharmonic $5.75 million for that purchase?
Yes.
So, in effect, our non-discretionary budget gap in actuality was $276,494. Is that correct? Now, in any year that we've anticipated a budget deficit, any year we've anticipated a deficit, do those deficits usually manifest themselves by the end of the fiscal year?
No, we exercise control over the expenditures in order to come in under budget.
Okay, so for a budget of over $120 million to have an anticipated gap of $276,000, is that extremely within range of what we could expect to cover in a fiscal year?
Yes, it is.
Okay, and so I just wanted to see if any of the council had any comments on the fact that we decided affirmatively, as opposed to haphazardly, replace these public safety items and to fix that roof. Councilman Franklin.
We have repeatedly, when we did the outreach to the departments, identified what their needs are. They reported to us specifically regarding the needs for law enforcement, both vehicles and radios, as well as the multiple years of complaints we've gotten from the city yard about the leaky roof. And we all agreed, and it was agendized for us to authorize these expenses. It's standard.
Okay.
Basically, you're just asking us to confirm what
Yeah.
we did.
Exactly what we
Yeah,
did.
I mean, and this was anticipated, so it's, you're just clarifying.
I'm
what was-
clarifying that.
what was- Okay.
That this is planned
Yeah,
as
this
opposed
is
to
planned,
happen.
expected, and everything else, and we have a plan going forward.
And Mayor, if I can also echo the sentiments that we did land banking of the Security Pacific Bank building for the purpose of us having the continuity of the tenant that we'd want to go in front of our city hall. And we were blessed to have the equity buildup to, based on the land value, to be able to get net the, over, what, 2 million?
Actually netted 1.65 million on that transaction.
Just for that sale alone.
Councilman Padilla.
Yeah, and one thing just to make clear to the folks is, when you're dealing with finances, as you know, even when you're dealing with your personal finances, it's always a work in progress. Things are always floating. You're always moving things around. Things happen. And maybe your family might have thought about doing a repair at home and you had to float that repair for a few more months. That's no difference than what we do with our budget. It's a work in progress. It's a living document that's very fluid. And so these changes that we make or these additions, they all have to be vetted. They all get voted upon by the council so that we can all be on the same page. And it's all things that are done to move our city forward so that we can have the resources, equipment, and staff that we need to get the job done. So this is really good news for the city of Inglewood.
Mr. Esparza, is it true that within the last 3 years, we received 4 bond rating upgrades from Moody's and Standard & Poor's, the city?
Yes.
And then the last question that I have, we in the last salary ordinance, we increased the range of a number of employees to bring them closer to market, but not up to market for their positions, a number of engineers in particular. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Does anyone have an estimate of what those raises would amount to if they were all manifested at once? And isn't it true that those are range increases but not actual raises given, meaning that their range goes up higher, but it did not affect what they are paid in this fiscal year? Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Do you have that estimate, Kiona? Please say that into the microphone.
Conservatively, about 180,000, but again, that is not an automatic increase or inflation just because the range went up.
Exactly. So what we're saying is we increased the range. The maximum that those employees could be paid, but they actually received no raises on the adoption of that last salary ordinance. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, because I wanted to make that very clear. Another thing that was being said was that we were giving raises in the face of a deficit. Well, as you can see, we really don't have a deficit, and we did attempt to bring those employees closer to market, but they're not to market yet. Is that correct?
That is correct.
All right, thank you very much. Were there any more questions from the council?
I would just like to say in regards to the salary ordinance, on occasion, of course, the HR department and administration sees positions that have to be looked at, and we need to look at those positions and make sure that we are at market rate so that we are paying what we should be paying, as well as recruiting for those positions. And I anticipate going forward, we'll see a number of those since our city wasn't able to do that in the past. So that's it.
Councilman Franklin?
And then just echoing the same sentiments, the reason why we have these quarterly budget reports is to do a pulse, to find out, based on the budget we adopted in September of last year to be effective October 1st for fiscal year from October 1st, 2017 to September 30th, 2018, making sure that we're on track based upon the budget. And I must emphasize, due to the due diligence of the staff, making sure, particularly the department heads, that they are doing their due diligence, making sure that they can effectively operate their departments with efficiency to provide the service that the public has been generously enjoyed.
That's correct, yes.
Thank you, Mayor.
All right, and last question. So even if we were to spend the 4.5 million in discretionary funds plus 500, well, we're not, the raises aren't going to be paid. So if we were to, if we were to spend this 5.5 million from the general fund, would our unobligated balance at the end of this fiscal year be greater or less than what it was last fiscal year? It'll be much greater.
Much greater than before.
Much
Still be
greater. Trick question. But anyway.
Trick me.
Trick question.
Much greater.
All right. So the point that I'm making is that the city has handled its finances in a way that we are able to buy new police cars, police radios and consoles that are state-of-the-art, repair the roof at the city yard, and still have increased our general fund balance. So I just wanted to make that clear, because there are a lot of people who run with that $17.7 million budget gap, and they don't know the analysis behind it. Thank you guys very much. Okay. Then we'll receive and file. We've done A1. Okay, so we'll adjourn the successor agency, adjourn the Inglewood Housing Authority. Public comment. Any person wishing to address the council on any matter connected with city business not elsewhere considered on the agenda may do so at this time. Person with complaints regarding the city management or departmental operations are requested to submit those complaints first to the city manager for resolution.
Russell Parker Jr., Vietnam veteran, 66-67, also conscious objector. In relation to Inglewood, we have a vast amount of funds in our house, but we don't access it because those who we put in leadership choose to ignore it. These are funds that are astronomical that these veterans, particularly Vietnam veterans, have coming, but they choose to ignore it. And being vetted, they are also violating the Constitution, security clearances for you, domestic, because that's what level you are. But people like Maxine Waters and the ones that are in federal, they're violating domestic, but through the Air Force, investigated by the FBI. This is treason, ladies and gentlemen. Up and get your head out the sand and deal with it. We are going to be at most veterans in the war, black veterans anyway, the majority of us, percentage-wise. We're the ones, that's why we're always at the bottom of the totem pole, no matter who comes in this country or leaves. We never get off the bottom. The design is set. It's slavery. It's modern slavery.
Good time, sir.
Space-age slavery today as I speak, and it's ongoing. That's what happens. So until you get your head out the sand, our few Uncle Toms get theirs, but we always got a few to show that. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Parker. Okay, any more public comment? Thank you.
Aldine Sly, First District. What we have listened to, the explanation about the 17 million point whatever, is that documented anywhere for public consumption?
Absolutely. It's documented in the budget report and
Not this report.
no, in this report, the budget book.
So that's for public consumption?
Yes, of course it is.
October.
Get a hold of it.
We'll
Just
see
go
it
down
at the
to the,
library, I believe.
go
You
down
can
to
go
the
see it at
office
the
and-
library, yeah.
Clerk's office.
Oh, and our website as well, I heard, right? Either one, the library and the city clerk's office.
I don't do a whole lot on the website. I run it.
You can go to the library.
Paper. To the library.
There's a copy in the library as well.
Very interesting, though.
Thank you.
My councilman, I informed my wife the other day that I was going back to Alabama. Don't smile, because it's true.
Oh, we're sorry to hear that.
And she told me she was not going because I brought her out here. I said, if you stay here, I'm going to have to send for you. Because Inglewood is getting too expensive for minorities. You want to know why I said that? I said, because the most of them can't get a good, don't smile at me like that. Most of them can't get a good job like I had. I said, don't do that, AG. See, that's what I'm talking about. People laugh about people like me and a few of us that'll talk back. When I came here out of Tennessee, I was making $4 and some cents an hour. Came to California making 12. I made a good living. You done cut my time so short. But that's one of the reasons I'm leaving. I seen that I can't go to work on the farm, couldn't go to work on the football stadium, and live in the city. Why? Because you had out-of-towners working there. Y'all talk about the Hispanic people, but they are people
Mr. Byrd,
too.
Mr. Byrd, we had time, sir.
Now, sir, officer, I'll tell Sergeant Blaylock on you. See, that's what's wrong with us now. Y'all don't want us to tell the truth. You want to hear a lie.
Thank you, Mr. Byrd.
I can get $80,000 in my house, and I'm gonna stay here and pay in the
Mr. Byrd?
My name is Willie A.G., and I want Mr. Burt to know that I love him very much.
Hold on, we're going to stop your time till.
And I don't want him to leave the city. Thank you.
Wait a minute, we didn't hear you.
He loves Mr. Burt.
Oh, you love Mr. Byrd, okay.
Oh, I want everybody to know I love Mr. Burt, and I don't want him to go back to Alabama because they have to pick cotton.
Okay, all right. Okay, well then we'll close public comment.
Everyone, my name is Dior Allen. I'm a playwright from New York, and I'm here in Inglewood doing a play the last weekend of February at the Miracle Theater. I just wanted to invite everybody. I know there's some serious topics going on, and this might be out of place, but
No,
I just
it's
wanted to
not out
invite
of place at
everybody.
all.
Thank you very much.
And
sir.
where is it going to be
The
now?
Miracle Theater, February 24th, 25th. Locals get 50% off of the ticket sales. 50% off the tickets. So I just want to invite everybody. 90s sitcom live on stage. We wrote new versions to Martin and Fresh Prince of Bel-Air in a stage play format. And we would love to have everybody there if you're a fan of the 90s. So
Thank you very much.
All right.
Attorney Zakia Wright of the Wright Firm. I had a point of clarification. On slide 2, it just states that unemployment's down, but there's no figure given. Could you provide that figure?
As of the fall of 2017, the unemployment rate in Inglewood, according to the federal government, was 5.5%.
5.5, down 0.8%.
Okay, with that, we'll close public comment. Are there any council comments? Councilman Dotson?
I reclaim my time since I didn't get a chance.
Okay.
First of all, the shredding, we had a wonderful shredding event this past weekend, Saturday. I want to thank everybody that came out and celebrated with us. Not only did we shred, we had people come in and have coffee and donuts with us as well. So you got a chance to shred your papers and have a little snack and a little conversation with the councilman and some of his commissioners. I was grateful that all the commissioners did come out. We had a wonderful participation, and we made record shredding. It was over 2 tons of paper we shredded, so thank you all.
Thank you. Councilman.
Hold it.
Oh, I'm sorry.
it.
I'm sorry.
Okay,
I thought you said that was all.
I also had a chance to attend grand opening along with the mayor, the Flavor Table, right here in Inglewood. So Inglewood is really coming up with the restaurants now. This place, you've got to go and try this place. I'm telling you. I had the shrimp and grits, and man, let me tell you. It's right there on Market Street. I don't have the address in front of me, but if you know where Fiesta Martin is, behind Fiesta Martin.
I think it's 116 North Market.
I have to go along with the bear because I don't know for sure. But you can't miss it. You get there, you'll see it. If you don't see it, you'll certainly smell the food. So I invite you to go over there. Black History Month, I want to invite you all out to the Willie A.G. Playhouse on February the 17th at 7 o'clock. One of our locals, Shirley Boone, matter of fact, she was our Grand Marshal for the Martin Luther King Parade, is putting on a play. You missed one already, and that was a sellout. So I'm telling you right now, make sure you get a ticket and come on February the 17th to see this play. You will never regret it. And thank you so much. And the budget, I agree that it is a wonderful living document, that it's something we operate our city on, and without the living document, we could not do that. And I'm so grateful to this council that we were able to replace our police cars and the computers because they were outdated. And that's a good recruiting tool. People who give their lives or everyday basis need equipment to work with. And it's up to us to make sure that we give them that. And other officers are looking for a job. They look for a place to go where they feel safe and have safe equipment. So with that, have a wonderful rest of your week, and thank you for coming out.
Thank you, Councilman Padilla, District 2.
Great, thank you, Mayor. Last Friday, we had an opportunity to welcome another business into District 2, Jose's Mexican Grill and Juice Bar. So I want to thank the mayor and all the council members and my commissioners as well as the residents for coming out to support all our new businesses that want to open up here in the city of Inglewood. I know we focus a lot on the big ticket items, but it's also nice to support the mom and pops that are out there every day that have been here through thick and thin. And so it was a really nice event, and I want to congratulate Jose on the opening of his restaurant. I also want to congratulate, we had 4 police officers graduate from the Sheriff's Department for Inglewood Police Department, because that's where we send our police officers, is to the LA Sheriff's Police Academy. So I want to thank Chief Ranarata and his staff, and now we have 4 more police officers that are in the on the force and are in the training program. That being said, if you know anybody that wants a career in law enforcement, I strongly encourage them to apply with the Inglewood Police Department. We have openings not only for police officer, we have openings for jailer to work in the jails, our records department, and very importantly, in our dispatch center. So if anybody's looking for a job, the Inglewood Police Department is hiring. And to go back to talk about our unemployment rate, when we have these big projects in Inglewood, we always do local hire. And that's what's helped us drop our unemployment rate from 17.5% down to 5.5%. Why? Because we want all our folks that live in Inglewood to be working to provide for their families. And so I consider that a huge success for the city and for the residents that want to work. So with that, enjoy your Valentine's Day tomorrow, enjoy your President's Weekend coming up, and have a great day. Thank you.
Councilman Franklin, District 4.
Yes, I just want to announce as the Metro South Bay Service Council Chair and the delegate on behalf of the City of Inglewood, starting today, Tuesday, February 13th, the intersection of Florence Avenue and Hendry Avenue will be closed for the construction of the transition of the light rail system of the Crenshaw LIX line. And it will continue to be closed until Saturday, February the 17th. So any vehicles that are going from La Cienega to Florence Avenue, you'll be turned on to Manchester. Any vehicles that are going eastbound from Aviation to Florence, you again will be turned on Manchester. So please make a note of that, so then that way it will not impede your flow of where you're trying to go to and fro. Thank you and have a great day.
Councilman Morales, District 3.
I was going to say the Florence and Hardy. That's all right. No, what I was going to say is that it was a great announcement by Councilman Padilla about the police department. You know, I was aware we had 4 new officers, but I can't give enough credit to the chief, who has done a great job recruiting. A few years back, we literally raised kind of the level of what we're looking for, and he's done a great job. So we're real proud of our police department. In regards to thanking a few folks, was at the 98th, 99th Street club meeting we had last week. Folks brought up some serious concerns about kind of their parking issue. We know it's impacting the entire city. It's going to get worse before it gets better, but we have some things going where we're going to change stuff around, and hopefully that'll see some resolution. And then it was great to see some of the new openings of the new businesses, and, good luck to them. So that's all I have, Mayor.
Okay. The numbers are in for 2017, and we have now had our 7th consecutive year of the lowest crime rate and actual numbers in the city of Inglewood in the recorded history of the city. Since Chief Franorata has been the chief, we've added 29 officers to the police department. The new equipment that we have will prepare us for the events that we're going to host in the future. They have counterterrorism measures. They're encrypted, and they have GPS location devices. So both the cars and the portables now can be located by satellite, so that if an officer is separated from a partner and we don't hear from that officer again, we can locate them by locating their portable through GPS. The dispatchers can now dispatch the closest unit based upon GPS location once this system is enacted. So these measures that the council approved knowingly will have a dramatic impact on not only perceived safety, but actual safety within the city. I want to give some kudos to the South Bay Workforce Investment Board. In conjunction with the city, we're in our third year of completing our third year of the Teen Center in operation at the main library. They have a computer lab, the recreation, after-school tutoring, and career counseling. In addition, they employ some of the youth that are interested in jobs for as much as $9 an hour. So I really want to give a big kudos to Jan Vogel and the South Bay Workforce Investment Board. And again, I want to thank Mr. Esparza for your presentation, even with the technical difficulties. And I want to make it clear to everyone the real deficit that we have is about $276,000. And I doubt that will manifest itself by the end of the year. With that, we want to say have a great day, and we're adjourned.